reactive fear, and that cuts down the idea of looking at a problem as an opportunity to take on. So courage and kindness are kind of our buzzwords, and that filters down to our program, where we want kids to be courageous and kind.
Thank you. I was wondering, and maybe you said it and I didn't understand it, but I was wondering if Horizons serves financial aid students, in your own financial aid students. Do many of them apply to the Horizons programs in the summer?
No, because they're admitted to Horizons before, usually typically before they end up coming to our school. So they're admitted in pre-K or K, and usually they're going to finish their run at their the local elementary school, and they may apply in middle school or our high school. And by that point, they come in and they're always part of our financial aid plan. It's a handful of kids.
Now, but students enter at different grade levels, don't they, Mary?
Because the retention is so high at a lot of the sites, there might be 1 or 2 slots available at certain grades, but we really, so for example, Colorado Academy is a very strong example where they have one partner school, and that's where those kids come from in kindergarten, and they stay with them throughout that time, but those kids might not stay at that one elementary school. I think you serve, they end up, it's a very transient population.
Yeah, ours is mainly Hispanic and mainly undocumented, so the families are, that's our biggest challenge, is keeping kind of our records so we know where families are and where they're living. Our school actually has a pretty sophisticated, developed busing system. We cover like 900 square miles or something crazy like through it. And Denver's big, so we're going to the mountains all the way to, I feel like we're driving to Kansas sometimes to pull kids in. So we use that in the summer to bring students in, but they start at NAP, but then they kind of end up going other places over time.
But it does look at, some sites might have a student who's attending the private school, has never attended at Horizons, is on financial aid. That does happen, but not as frequently.
Why do you think those financial aid parents, 2 working parents would say,
Yeah.
wow, Horizons is at this school, can I send my children here?
We get a lot of just the hosts, without being on financial aid, the parents are like,
Okay.
my kid come to Horizons. Any other questions?
How do you select students? Are they like high achieving, or how do you decide which kids get?
No, and this is I think what's really cool. So we partner with the sending squad, and that's maybe a little different than some other models, but the goal is, 1/3 above grade level, 1/3 at grade level, 1/3 below.
Oh.
That's awesome.
And we have a little bit more of an emphasis on sibling relationships. That's a reflection of our own school admissions policies, but, so you have a range of students.
Yeah, that is the national push, is to have 1/3 above, 2/3 at or below, and then, siblings are priority.
That's interesting, because that's different than some of the other models that are out there. It's they concentrate on that middle spectrum, 20 to 80%, or 40 to 60%. So those who probably won't go to college unless they have assistance. So your data may look different than others. That's interesting.
And it's great that that is who we pull from, and yet we still have those graduation numbers at that high. It's pretty tremendous.
You said you were a cohort model?
Oh, what?
A cohort model, as soon as you stay together, the students are accepted in kindergarten, they are cohort, meaning if you leave, but you don't replace. So you start with 10, you end with 10, or do you constantly fill?
We'll replace if we.
Yeah.
Okay, but it's a set number.
It's a little rare for us,
Okay.
because kids stay in the program.
Yeah, like I said, if there are, we really want to keep full classrooms, so 15 is what we consider a full class, and so if a family moves out of the county or out of the state, we'll try to replace that.
Just 2 quick questions. One, thanks for clarifying about the teaching process, but I'm just curious, how do you measure success? Or what assessment tools do you use to know that the program is actually being effective, that the kids are actually, it sounds like you're trying to work to close the achievement gap, especially around reading and math. So what sort of instruments and tools do you use to make sure you're being effective? And then my second question is, just hypothetically say Hathaway Brown wants to start a Horizons program at K. What does that look like from an idea in this room to the manifestation of the actual program?
I'll address the question first around assessment. So The other thing I really like about working at Horizons, I've worked at other nonprofits and always with education, and it can be really hard to find nonprofits that really use data to, you know, truly make decisions, and we really get excited about seeing what we're doing, if it's working or not. So we do use a nationally standardized assessment. Up until this summer, we've always used DIBELS for kindergarten through 2nd grade, and then STAR, reading and math for 3rd and up through 8th grade. This summer we are, we're no longer going to be using DIBELS, we're going to be using STAR, early literacy, and STAR reading and math for all grades. So we do that assessment, a pre and post test. And again, we just really want to capture, we use the assessment, you know, obviously for a few different reasons. One, we really want a way to be able to support the teachers and say, here are the children you're working with, here's a quick snapshot of where your children are. And, you know, then we try to have supports around that. Every site also has a reading specialist that really can hone in on those children that are the lowest level readers. And we use the data to help inform the reading specialist of who those children are and the groups that they should be in and all that good stuff. And then again, we do the pre and the post test to just say, are they getting close to that 2 to 3 month gain that we know they need to stay on par with their middle and upper income peers. And so we use the assessment, and that's all aggregated at a national level.
And so we can see where we do for national, I mean, it's really helpful.
Yeah.
Some great information, it's very data driven. And to answer your second question, I would say, if you want to start a program, I think it's really key, you gotta have your head of school and your board totally behind it. And I would say, the key message I think all heads of schools and boards of independent schools should realize is, if we aren't actively engaging in public partnerships, we are gonna look awful as an industry. That if you look at the income gap in this country, if you look at how segregated many of our cities are, and our ultimately what I think is a civic role we all play as educators, public or private, that I think independent schools really have a duty to actually really reach out and engage and play some positive role in their community. And I think if we don't, if you think about where tuition is naturally going to go, and you think about the demographics in this country and how dramatically they're changing. If you're 10 years old right now, as a census data, if you're 10 years old, you're white in this country, you're a minority, right? But think about the demographic breakdown of all independent schools and what that looks like. And I think it's an imperative for all independent schools to have, whether it's Horizons or Breakthrough or whatever program, to have something that's meaningful, that's contributing. And I think we found that, again, it's brought our community together, it's opened up some doors for some interesting partnerships, although I do think we could be a little bolder as a school in trying to do that, and we're making some changes to try to really increase our outreach and try to serve more kids, because I think that's your question about how do you select them. I mean, it's painful because we're turning away. We have 150 or 140 students. You know, how can we double that number? How can we triple that number? I think that's what we ultimately are trying to do. And I think most of our schools are empty in the summer. We have the potential of space to provide that. And then I think, again, with the right compensation package for teachers, there's so many great teachers out there, public and private, how to get them in to do something really meaningful with their summer and make a little more income.
And in addition to having the head of school or the board behind it, they're the ones kind of finalizing the decision if they're going to move forward. Horizons National, that's kind of what we see part of our role is supporting that journey from the very first conversation. We can sit on, we sit on board meetings all the time with schools who are rolling this around in their brains. We encourage boards to start just kind of a strategy group to really look at the big picture, look at how this would be sustained long term. A lot of the sites look really different. Colorado Academy is primarily funded within, and that's not necessarily the typical, the site in Indianapolis, sites all around. It's a great way for the host private school to be able to leverage partnerships with foundations that they couldn't get their foot into before because they don't, want to fund and support private schools. So that all looks really differently. So just having those really juicy conversations at the board level, and then Horizons being a part of that, identifying the leadership. A lot of times in the first kindergarten, K1, K2 years, the leadership comes from within the host school. Someone who's like, oh my gosh, I've been wanting to do this for so long, this is great. So, yeah.
And I think the key other challenge is just thinking about the fundraising piece, because it definitely, at least in our case, it can be distracting from other goals. I mean, we have our own financial aid needs to serve our own students, and so balancing all that, you know, and I think we haven't quite cracked it yet, you know, and, but I do think that's a conversation your leadership has to be prepared to really think about. And I think a development office that understands that there's a lot of advantages, because sometimes, you know, we're not, I think independent schools are not viewed by some outside foundation now as quite as attractive, feeling like, oh, you're good, your facilities are great, you got it going, we're gonna focus on other really needed, urgent things in the charter school world or public school world, which are totally appropriate. And so, but we found that being able to demonstrate to some outside organizations that we're actually serving a diverse group of students and low-income students and really making a difference, that has helped us with some fundraising. It doesn't have to be oppositional, but I think we went through some growing pains as a school trying to get to a point, and I think we still are to a certain extent.
I think anytime you're bringing on a program like an Aspire or anything like that, we kind of call it a happy tension. It's just gonna be there. That fundraising piece between that program and the private school, it's just gonna be there. So best case scenario, you have people on board who get that it's gonna exist, and how do we make this a win-win? How do we, you know, find ways that this program is adding value to the school, and at the same time we're adding value to the program? Because that's the best case scenario, and that's how it really is successful.
Yeah, so I have one last question. You know, there are heads of schools that really believe in public purpose. You know, Al Adams, when he first started writing about public purpose and the PSPP movement as it grew. But, you know, we're going through a phase where a number of heads of schools that have been visionary in this area, very well known, Bill Christ is one of them, are retiring. So, you know, how do these programs, I mean, Reggie and Carl Ackerman, you know, where's the next generation coming from that will hold the same, I mean, that's a very serious commitment, creating having a horizons within your school, and you want it to be long-term. So how do you create that institutionally, that there's the will beyond the head of school?
I think
Head of school turnover.
Well, I mean, I think that's a great question. I mean, I would look at my own experience. So, you know, the last thing I was going to do coming in was, I mean, there were board members who weren't totally like, what are we doing this? The development director felt there was always tension. Every time we had an auction, right? The Horizons volunteers would go out and ask for donations of some type. The auction for financial aid, they do the same thing, and the parents would get across purposes. We just have to cut through that because it's silly, right? We serve families, many of our families have plenty of philanthropic desire and interest and can afford to support both the school and the program. That is much, frankly, Horizons relative to our needs it's actually a pretty small number. So I think we have the ability to meet it. I just think the board has got to have some role of understanding why Horizons is important, and when they have that head transition, it's really clear to that new head coming in, this is an institutional priority. So the outgoing head has to play a role in making sure that it's part of the fabric of the school culture so that it isn't dropped.
But have you found from the donors, do you have one or two people who really believe in this, or have you got a really broad spread of sort of philanthropic support throughout the school?
Yeah, it's interesting. So I think sometimes our development director worries that people are only going to support Horizons and not CA, and that's not true. You know, I think we have very few people who are saying no to the school's annual campaign and yes to Horizons. We were talking last night, I've kind of toyed with the idea of maybe just making Horizons part of our operations and just rolling it all in and creating some efficiencies. That would actually probably limit our ability to go outside and develop other partnerships, so that's why we're probably not going to do it. But it really isn't, I don't feel that it's a kind of Sophie's Choice thing for our donors. Like, I think we play up Horizons in our newsletters and like push pages we send out every week about what's going on at the school. A lot of our kids volunteer in the program, so I think people are aware of it. We have to remind them that giving the annual campaign is not the same as giving to Horizons, and giving to Horizons is not the same as giving the annual campaign, but that's just messaging. But
you're saying broad support?
I think there's broad support. Yeah, I have not seen anything but that. And it's been a great way of, again, we have some I mean, it's hard to not look at our school and realize, hey, it's a healthy place, like, you guys are okay. And so for some families, they want their dollars to go to something that's truly needy, you know, and I think Horizons is a great alternative for them. And so, but most of the time, most of our parent donors are supporting both causes very generously.
And we talk to heads of schools a lot, because this is a conversation that we have a lot with sites and people who are considering the Horizons program. And the head of schools almost every time will say, we have only found that it actually increases some of the giving that happens, because they, like you said, they rarely give to one and not, like they won't give to Horizons and not to the host school. They're almost always giving to both.
And I would say your typical independent school family who can afford the tuition, right? I mean, think about that, where they are in the economic scale of America. They're supporting they're getting hit up all the time. So it isn't really I mean, I think they're used to being approached, and I think it's a very compelling cause. And again, I think the data and the structure that Horizon provides makes that ask easier, particularly when I think about the kind of startup program I had at my old school that lacked that kind of larger metric approach to measuring student progress and seeing those outcomes.
And the other thing is what we hear most often also in that field is it's a really great way to bring back graduates. Horizons pulls them back in, especially that millennial generation who is all about this change and wanting to see change, and it's a really easy way to pull them back in and get them involved in the school again if they have been absent. So schools use it in that way as well. And there's a few sites that we work with in this, you know, they want to serve more students, and we look at the landscape of private schools in their community, and when we get down to it, the board of that host private school says, we actually really like being the only private school that has a Horizons program, because they feel like it really adds to their messaging and it attracts a family who that's what they want to be a part of. I have one other question I think is important, kind of going along with this. And can you share some examples of how Horizons has leveraged outside partnerships, outside resources that the school likely wouldn't have been able to do on their own?
Yeah, so, I'll have some notes here. So we've had, not only with the National Horizons organization, but I think the ability to connect with Denver Public Schools has been really great for our institution. So it's led to some other points of contact, like so we hosted with Denver Public Schools a TED Talk on kind of innovative teaching, and kind of had different educators from around the state come in and talk about things. I don't think that would have happened had we not had this existing partnership, and I think it was a really great thing just for education in general in Colorado. There are, I think, some different opportunities that, you know, for example, the University of Denver, we have a Latin American Education Foundation that's been supportive, the Denver Public Schools Foundation, different agencies that we've been able to kind of connect with. We've also connected with some other, mainly through our parents who have outside organizations, but like, I don't know if you know City Kids Wilderness. It's a program in Baltimore for inner city kids who, and the guy who runs it's my climbing partner, so he has a ranch in Wyoming, and he brings kids out every summer to his, like he has basically a summer camp he owns out in Wyoming outside the Grand Teton National Park, where kids climb, do all these things. And so he allows our Horizons program to use that camp for part of the summer when he's on a break with his students. He was actually featured, one of these Food Network shows came out there and they redesigned his kitchen, which was a really cool thing. But we also, Keystone Science Center, the YMCA of the Rockies. So we're trying to use our geographic location to kind of do something a little bit different with our kids. We're looking at developing a mountain campus, which will, again, we like 45 minutes from Denver, which we see as an ability to get students out into the woods and to do camping and rock climbing and things like that. We take them to a world-class private fishing stream called Lincoln Hills. That's just, is anybody fly fishing here? No. Okay. You gotta hit Lincoln Hills. Like it's the water is loaded with fish that are this big, and it's an amazing location. It used to be a historically African-American fishing club back in the 1920s, and it's a really cool place. But we take our kids out there, and you know, they're fishing for the first time and they're catching monster trout. There's nothing cooler than that. Because fly fishing is really hard, and it's like shooting ducks in a barrel. It's fantastic. So the, well, not that that's so fantastic, but no, so I think it's been good, and I think our goal is, again, because our community has embraced Horizons so much, we haven't been really pressured to get out there to the community. Like when I first came on board, we actually had some cash reserves from exceeding our fundraising goals to the tune of $200,000. Like, so when we were going to foundations, they're like, you guys are good. You don't need our help. And so we've put that, and we've created an endowment for our Horizons program to kind of make it sustaining over time. We do very well every year meeting our goals. As our program has grown, it's been harder to achieve those surpluses because our operational costs have gone up. But I think, you know, we're at a phase right now where we really want to look at how do we engage with a lot of companies that are moving to Denver. The Denver population growth has been kind of extreme right now. So new companies moving in, how do we get involved? How do we get their support? How do we begin to partner with another either independent school or some other entity so we can have a different campus location so we can serve more kids? I mean, I think that's what we'd like to do as a program. And you know, but I think in the end, it allows us entree to talk to different community leaders who might not ever want to have anything to do with our school. And again, that can potentially lead to other partnerships and some really cool things. So.
And the head of school at the school that I was at in Minneapolis, he would always say that the biggest gift that the school has gotten specifically has been the PR. So the Horizon site in Indy has gotten in the last 2 years 5, key articles from the paper, and it's just this tremendous advertising for this little private school that really otherwise would never be highlighted in that way. So he loves the PR. In addition, we wrote a grant for a bus, like a giant school bus, and we got it just for the Horizons program, but I put in the grant that the private school is going to use this around the year, during the school year, and that was totally fine. So we got the school a bus that they use in the school year, we use in the summer. They would never be able to write that grant. So those kind of examples of how little ways that the program can add value to the private school as well has been really exciting.
Our other cool connection was we had Mannings Foundation.
Yeah.
He's based in Indiana, but he, of course, is a Bronco. And so we did a joint application for his foundation, and eventually Manning ended up on our campus. And it was crazy how their kids just went nuts. It was amazing. I don't know how that guy walks around town. I don't think he does very often. But there's some neat stuff like that happens.
Are there any other questions? So one thing I'm looking forward to hearing, I wrote this, I want to know, what is, as you walk away from, if say you left, I hope you don't, but if you left Colorado Academy tomorrow, what would be your most favorite or standout memory of Horizons?
Oh, I think I love when you walk around on campus in the summer, just the laughter that you hear. It's really fun to watch the bus unload and the kids just, they are psyched. I mean, and the school is, they're going to learn. Like it's school. And they're going to be in classes all day, but they are thrilled to be there. And you see this amazing kind of love and support that the teachers provide for the students. I see our own students and their joy of being on our campus, even in the summertime, and wanting to work with other students. We really try to track our alums, and as we enter our 20th year, we try to use more of our alums in kind of fundraising events where they talk about their experience. And we've had like students who now are out of college who are pursuing careers in technology. We have a student who got a job at Texas Instruments, totally life-changing for that family, first generation family to go to college. Other students involved in mental health care, education, a lot of students going back and teaching at parochial schools in Denver. And again, that's a pretty small sample, but I'm excited to see those stories grow and look at those success stories. And again, we want to focus a little more on, historically our program ended in 8th grade, and I know, because my background's mainly teaching high school kids, a lot can happen in high school. And so how do we maintain touch points? I'm interested in pursuing, we find a lot of our kids, they really need to work to help their families. So, why aren't we having our parents who have businesses play a role in offering internships and jobs and giving training? And I think we've talked about that. I think that's something I'm excited to do, and I think that'll lead to more connections and more contact and really reinforce the value of getting a great education and understanding where that can lead and how that can change your life and your family's lives.
Well, thank you for coming in.
Thanks a
Thank
lot.
you.